have two examples here of bubble entrapment. Basically, I have laid down stringers and noodles between two sheets of glass, and then you fire it at a full fuse and bubbles are trapped in there. This one I just sort of slumped into a candy dish shape. This one I draped over a form to make a little votive candle shape. But today we're going to actually go over the process of cutting the noodles and stringers and laying them down. So I'm going to start with a piece of clear glass, and I've cut a 6-inch square of clear glass and I have cleaned it up ahead of time. You always want to keep your glass clean because it gets rid of all the oils and possible dirt. It makes it fire a little bit better and cleaner in the kiln. And then what I'm going to do is take a variety of noodles and stringers, and I have here, I have a dark opal green noodles, I have Amazon opal green stringers, and I have striking lipstick red stringers. So I'm going to cut them to fit my glass square. And I don't measure it out exactly, I just sort of eyeball it. Even if I get one a little bit off, it's not going to be, because they're noodles and stringers, they have a lot less glass. It's not going to cause any lumping. You could also do this on a larger sheet of glass if you wanted. And the way I'm cutting them is I'm just using some glass nippers. So I just sort of eyeball the length and nip it with my nippers. Now I know from experience that I can get 2 6-inch noodles off one stringer. The others are too small, so I set them aside. For this particular pattern, I have chosen, when you're trying to figure out your design ideas, think plaids. And I find usually that getting about 3 different colors seems to be the best. You can have 2 dark and a light, or 2 in the same color family and a contrasting color. And now you're going to lay them out. You can eyeball this, or you could get a piece of graph paper. And I tend to just eyeball it. Sometimes one gets a crooked one in there when you do it that way, but I always remind myself that some irregularity is intrinsic to the handmade process. So when you get your pieces all on here, make sure they're kind of in a good pattern. And then you need to glue them down. And I don't take the whole thing off. Just move them down and run a strip of glue along one edge. And I use either glass tack, it's about my bullseye. Sometimes I'll use the Elmer's gel glue. But I prefer glass tack. Then I just move these guys down. There's the advantage of using glass tack is that it takes a little bit longer to dry, so if you need to adjust your design, you will have more time to do so. The disadvantages of using glass tack is that it takes longer to dry. So now I've got one start of my design aspect here. But to make it, turn it into a plaid so that I can actually entrap the bubbles where the noodles and the stringers cross, I'm going to have to let this dry. And of course, since the glass tack takes a little longer, that means we have to wait. But interestingly enough, I have two over here that are all ready to go. Kind of like the Martha Stewart. So there's two ways you can do this. I could take this and turn it over on one that's already been done, and it just broke, which I dislike doing because sometimes they didn't totally dry. So the way I like to go about doing it, I'll just set these aside because they don't like doing it that way anyway. So I take one that's already dry, and I simply cut more noodles and stringers to go over them. Okay, so if option one is to do two of these and then lay one on top of the other, which as you can see, for me, it doesn't seem to work well. Some people prefer that way. I do option two, which is to take one that I've already got laid out and then just simply arrange my noodles and stringers right on top of it. For me, that way works the best. And I arrange them before I glue them down. And now I'm going to run glue. Just making sure everything is okay. The disadvantage to doing it this way is, of course, now you have to wait till it dries before you put your sheet of clear on top. Because the whole point of this is to have the noodles and stringers entrapped between two pieces of glass. So now I would let it dry, put the sheet of clear on top, And by having 2 layers of noodles and stringers in here, there's air pockets in the glass. So when it fuses, air is trapped in there and forms a bubble. You're going to fuse it at a full fuse, whatever full fuse program that you prefer for your kiln. If you don't have a kiln, Parks and Recs has plenty. You're always free to register for one of our classes and use one of our kilns. So this one, the original pattern, was pretty similar to the one I just did, just sort of the colors were reversed. So once I had fused it, I draped it over a form. So I had a little form up here, just draped it over, and it made this wonderful little votive candle holder. This guy, instead of doing the stringers across like that, I did them on a diagonal. And then once it had the fuse, I just slumped it into a dish. So we have plenty of fusing forms and draping forms here at Parks and Recs, which if you sign up for a class, you're welcome to use. We would love to have you come down here. We miss all of our students greatly.